Hello there. Welcome to The Future of Libraries, a user and community-centered perspective. This is a book chapter that will be coming out soon in a book called Library 2035. My name is Anthony Chow. I'm the director and full professor at the School of Information at San Jose State University. I want today to talk about the future of libraries in the United States with the emphasis that we have to work very closely with the individual users and the communities that we serve. So what I want to talk about today is the state of libraries in the U.S., libraries of the future, and more specifically, libraries of the future in public libraries, academic libraries, and school libraries. And really with a prioritization on data and customization as society in the U.S. Tries to figure out the role of libraries in the increasingly technology digital world. So, the state of libraries in the U.S. So, the three that we'll be talking about today are academic, public, and school libraries. And the thing to remember is that all three of them have different funding sources, and so how they are funded is different. So academic libraries, they're funded through their institutions, typically higher education funding. Public libraries funded through their local communities. That depends, but typically at the county level is the most frequent, but also can be at the city level as well. And school libraries funded by their site and district administration. And school libraries in the United States in particular have continued to decrease in support due to largely the general lack of funding in K through 12 public education in the United States. Now, what I wanted to show you with these graphics is kind of the vision that I believe really reflects each of the environments. So you can see on the left here, a public library with a lot of, academic library with a lot of natural lighting for studying and use of technology. A public library, again, with a lot of technology involved, including robots, which I know sounds like science fiction, but is becoming more and more a likelihood in terms of using library robots as an assistant. Certainly will not take over the role of a librarian, but can serve as an assistant to the library workforce. And then school libraries, again, similarly, natural lighting, because of the decrease in print circulation in general. A lot of space has been regained, and so flexible space, modern space, lighting, along with technology are all earmarks of the future library. The role and funding of libraries does, however, remain a question. So stereotypes around libraries continue in terms of if you have the internet and the demise of print material in general in society, do we need libraries any longer? And of course, that's a very stereotypical view from people that don't use libraries, but unfortunately, that oftentimes defines elderly or more senior decision makers or the affluent. And so in the United States, it continues to be a challenge, especially at the school library level, where again, the role of libraries remains in question. So, in writing my book chapter, of course, I wanted to see what AI had to say. So, I talked to ChatGPT as part of my preparation for my book chapter and asked it, what do you feel is the future of libraries? And according to ChatGPT, libraries will increasingly be digital and accessible remotely. Absolutely. continue to adapt and offer new services to meet the changing needs of their patrons? Absolutely. Offer spaces for people to meet, work, and collaborate. Again, completely agree. Flexible spaces, increased programming, including workforce development. Yes, absolutely. That's been an ongoing trend and will continue to increase as far as a place to learn and what we call education and entertainment at the same time. And then future driven by technology and changing societal needs and trends. Again, absolutely. This is a general perspective again on all libraries, and again, we're going to talk more specifically about other trends in those three library types of libraries. Additional trends where I believe libraries will continue to evolve in. So as the continued transformation of the physical spaces, so as the print circulation and the need for print books continues to decrease, digital spaces and physical spaces and basically maker spaces and innovation spaces, libraries will continue to grow as a learning hub. As well as for flexible space for reading, working, innovating, and collaborating. As the cost savings for a reduced print book collection, those funds should be will be reallocated to the digital side, hardware, software, subscriptions, training, consultants, and specialists. So certainly we're way beyond computers now. So we talk about extended reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, AI-driven software. The bottom line is libraries will continue to have to redefine themselves, and that funding will be in that in a lot of those areas. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, one cannot assume that decision makers understand the role of libraries. Now, the good news is that in the U.S., the sense is that most people support libraries, even though with the book banning happening in the U.S., that is not as generally true any longer. But the bottom line is decision makers that typically, again, are at an age where they're not using libraries because of their age, experience, and they tend to be affluent as well. So advocacy and a constant dialogue with decision makers is essential, so that budgets and decisions are not made through stereotypes and lack of information. And so it really is the role of all librarians, all else professionals, to ensure that your decision makers understand the value of libraries now and into the future, and how agile libraries are and will continue to be to serve their communities. And the good news is that as libraries renovate, as new libraries are built, they come with all of the modern design and fixtures and amenities. And so I think that the saying that we like to use is, do not judge a book by its cover, but the bottom line is we do. And so as libraries, one of the stereotypes for libraries is archaic and out of date. The bottom line is the new modern library will be far from that. And so again, examples of natural lighting, modern spaces, flexible spaces, hubs of innovation. The bottom line is the buildings, the new buildings and the renovated buildings will reflect that, including a lot of placed places for charging, our increasing use of digital devices. So let's focus more specifically on the big three types of libraries. And again, in the U.S., that is public, academic, and school. So by 2035, public libraries will, according to AI, continue to meet the needs of their communities while adapting to changing technology and social trends. And this will focus on four major areas: digital resources, community engagement, inclusivity and accessibility, and collaboration with other organizations. So my mother is 85, and so she can only read print books, large print books, and so as her cognitive abilities decline and her physical abilities, there's a very unique small set of public library resources that she can use. And so with the advent or the increased use of AI, we have more and more customizability for our patrons. So digital resources, like I mentioned, again, everything from the traditional databases, AI agents, chatbots, robots, etc. Plus, of course, AI is going to be an extended reality. Are all going to be things that libraries should be bringing to bear to continue to make information seeking more efficient, more customized, and also in many ways more innovative. Community engagement. So the act of talking to your community really opens a dialogue and oftentimes can be educational for both sides. So when we talk about engaging with your community to identify what's important to them, oftentimes they are learning about the library at the same time. And again, appreciate being reached out to. And the surest way to build a successful organization is to build an organization around the needs of the people you're trying to serve. Inclusivity and accessibility. So as I mentioned, again, we have more and more tools to deliver information in different modalities. And again, I think AI is going to, in particular, be able to customize the experience for the individuals that they serve, so that we can continuously be more accessible in our services. And then collaboration with other organizations, very important, because libraries, as a hub of the community, does not have to do it all by itself. And so workforce development, serving the indigent, social workers, illiteracy, technology, et cetera, the libraries don't have to do it all by themselves, but rather should invite partners to come and share their knowledge and expertise. And also very much so in the programming area, inviting community organizations to share or fulfill their mission by partnering with the library. So additional public library trends. And this imagery here, all AI generated artwork, is an example again of the vision of really augmented mixed reality. And so with those devices, you don't need space. Rather, it is just connecting or adding additional information as digital overlays to physical space. So other public library trends include increasing the use of data. And so data dashboards, collecting data, understanding more real-time statistics in terms of what's working and what is not, is what I call GPS thinking. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But the bottom line is more than ever, we can collect and use data to know how we're doing and to assess very quickly and more in real time, as opposed to what we call summative evaluation data, which is after a project is done, we really can be much more real time. Digital literacy and information security. So digital literacy, similar to traditional reading literacy, is critical to be functional, to be successful in the world today and definitely in the future. And so one of those huge facets is privacy and information security, and being able to protect yourself in that world while being successful. Technology petting zoo showcases and devices for checkout. So in the United States, certainly there remains a economic and social economic divide in terms of those that have and those that have not, typically around educational levels. Now, what the bottom line is, public libraries will continue to serve as the equalizing organization that provides children without as much means to have access to technology and other resources that they otherwise could not afford. And when we think about children in particular, digital literacy is equally, or as not equally, but is certainly very important on top of reading literacy. Because again, being functional and having the constructs and the concepts and the competency in digital literacy, both hardware and software, is very, very important. And again, as I mentioned, extended reality. So the form factor is relatively modest. You can see in this example, devices, the new MetaQuest 3 is a mixed reality device, which means that you can see through the device. So it is not as isolating, if you will, as previous virtual reality, which means basically you cannot see around you. And so I think that's going to become more and more the norm. And we are experimenting with that here at San Jose State, where we are looking at pop-up avatars that are geolocated, so that you can walk around in our physical space and using an app, have those avatars pop up, including potentially myself or the university president, where we can personally welcome people into our space, or our avatar can welcome them into our space, which is quite exciting. And then I'm also vice chair of Little Free Libraries board of directors. And so the idea of placing physical book boxes is sponsored by the library, is a growing concept and idea in the United States. And Little Free Library is a global phenomena, 170,000 plus Little Free Library boxes. But the bottom line is going out to the communities that we're trying to serve, in particular print literacy or reading. Books are expensive, and they also ownership of books and circulation of books and access to books also travel along social economic divides in the United States, and that's typically rural, and then of course neighborhoods that either are affluent or not. And so the book sharing boxes are a way for books to be conveniently placed and for free and circulated throughout that community, because unfortunately for the indigent or those in poverty, they are less likely to visit the library, especially parents and children. And then the idea of community situated physical digital services. So kind of 24/7 self-serve spaces, obviously more increased digital services in terms of integrating with existing devices like mobile apps, et cetera, et cetera. So the phone in particular is a very exciting evolution in the digital world, because it provides us access to more and more people that we can serve, because market penetration for cell phones in the United States is, I think last time I checked, around 98%. So we can feel confident that everyone will have a device. So future libraries, for public libraries, it's paramount that their power users are well taken care of. And so we can't, as we evolve in the public library space, not forget our core services around children, early children's literacy and families, as well as seniors and the indigent. And so for seniors, again, with my 85-year-old mother, she's retired, has a lot of time on her hands and are looking for things to do. And then on a fixed income on top of that, and displaced, of course, oftentimes placed to cool down or warm up, as well as a safe space to be. I think one of the challenges for public libraries will to be remain relevant and interesting to children. And so it has to go beyond print books. Again, print books are critical still for children, young children in particular, but using extended realities, using technology, making the experience more experiential. So one of the companies that we're working with is called Living Pop-ups, where again, using your iPad or your phone, virtual avatars will pop up on the page to supplement the storytelling, which is, I think, going to be, increasingly be a trend. And again, the vision is to have the actual author or the historical figure pop up and deliver content or interact with the reader. So anyway, it's lots of opportunities there. And then certainly digital literacy, so STEM concepts. Again, not just teaching STEM or STEAM, adding art to that, but also the idea. And by the way, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And then STEAM is science, technology, engineering, art, and math, is to continue working with parents to help them partner with them to help raise successful, healthy, smart children. And so, again, as a father of three, public library resources really were very important, especially when, as a young couple with a very modest income. Again, a lot of those experiences were very important, and obviously the material and the programming also are extremely important. And again, for seniors, print, digital, audio books, but the specific what and how of those offerings will continue to change, especially as the more digital natives become seniors. Again, I'm predicting that likely there'll be more and more technology used. One of the things I love about virtual reality is what we call staycations, where you can immerse people in virtual experiences. Basically drop them in the ocean as a scuba diver, or drop them in a safari where you get to experience what it would be like to actually be in a safari. So those are all amazing opportunities, especially for those that are maybe senior. And really, to be honest, for all of us, how many of us are going to be able to travel the world or even go on an African safari? But how nice would it be to actually experience it for a few minutes? And of course, the other is swimming with sharks. How many of us would swim with sharks? But would you like to be immersed in that experience just for a few minutes? So one of the challenges in serving the displaced, the indigent, the homeless is also the impact it has on all the other patrons. And so one of the challenges for future libraries will continue to negotiate that well, where the displaced does not take over the library or displace the other patrons because they don't want to be around them. Right. And so that is a continued challenge. The way libraries tend to do it, as they have spaces where the indigent can gather, and therefore being able to continue to curate a nice, modern, and clean environment for everyone else. So. And then certainly the evolution and the impact AI is going to have on the workforce is going to be significant. Post-pandemic, homeschooling and e-learning is also a major growing area for parents and children. Many who have not sent their kids back to school, but rather are homeschooling them now. And of course, AI automation is going to change the way libraries do things, and certainly change the way we train LAS professionals. And in California, there is going to be a statewide summit in a couple of months, actually, where the state library and libraries all across California are going to meet to talk about AI and how best to prepare for AI. Let's talk about academic libraries. So AI would say libraries will continue to support the research, teaching, and learning needs while adapting to technological changes in scholarly communication and education. And then academic libraries have been in the digital world a lot sooner than the other two libraries. And as a faculty member for the past 25 years, to be candid, I don't visit our own academic library in person very often, but I'm completely reliant on their databases and ensure that our librarians are identifying and subscribing to the databases I need to publish my work. So that focus will only increase. The again need for modern, flexible spaces. So this example, I think, again reflects that, where it's a safe place for students and faculty to meet and read and study and collaborate. Providing open access materials to reduce the cost of education and textbooks, and of course continuing to ensure a strong scholarly foundation for all involved at the university. And then increased integration with teaching and learning. Libraries need to, of course, teach information literacy, digital literacy, around how best to find information and valid and make sure that it's valid, high quality information. So additional academic library trends. So digital literacy is very important. So part of being educated is to know how to seek information and verify the validity of information. So digital and information literacy will continue to be very important. One of the things that worries me greatly about AI is that AI does make mistakes, and that some of those mistakes might not be found or caught. And then those AI become part of our scholarly resources and essentially be embedded misinformation. So we have to be very, very careful with that. But certainly teaching our students and faculty and staff the ever-changing and rapidly growing field of information literacy, especially AI-driven, is very important. The focus on instruction, teaching, and training. So technology changing, hardware, software, society trends, those are all things that librarians must teach others in terms of, again, hardware, software, XR, AI, information literacy. These are all things that we must teach our students and the people that we serve. And so teaching online in particular, and kind of hybrid, online and face-to-face, are all very important. So instructional design is going to continue to be a core competency for all librarians. And again, XR, so virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality. And really quickly, the differences, I should have included a graph here, but virtual reality is fully immersive, where you typically can't see around you, right? So you're fully immersed, you have a headset, and you cannot see the real world around you. Mixed reality is a combination of both, with a focus on technology, but you can also see where you are, which then allows you a digital overlay, right? So in some of the examples, you can put on, again, a Meta 3, you can put on the headset, but you can see around you the physical world. And then, of course, the virtual world is overlaid on top of the physical world. And then augmented reality is the reverse. So it's primarily physical, and then it puts a digital overlay using a device. So again, living pop-ups, for example, where you can use your phone to scan over a book, and the augmented reality avatars or whatever effects will appear, is, I think, a growing trend that will influence a lot of the print books in the future. And robots and AI assisted support. So this is, I'm a big fan, or very intrigued with the Tesla robot that really it looks like is fastly moving, the combination of AI and robotics, fingers and toes, and kind of a humanoid form factor. And there are already robots, typically on tracks as opposed to walking. And I do think that that's going to be more and more the norm. Now, again, will it replace humans? No, I don't think so. But at the same time, one, if there isn't a human staffing wise that's available, yes, they could serve as an alternative. But I think primarily there'll be a support assistant, and also a novelty factor to continue changing the reputation of libraries. So, all right, and the future of academic libraries will um, remain, again, primarily faculty and students. There are examples of academic libraries trying to also serve as a public library, but the bottom line is faculty and students and staff are a highly educated um, patron group, and they're very demanding in terms of providing support. So again, the recouped, redesigned space will mean, I think, continued modernization and flexible spacing. That again, I think will change the reputation of libraries. I think academic libraries have already pretty much made that change, but the traditional hardwood, kind of staid environment is going to be less and less. And it's really important to have that mixed space where you have also the quiet for reading and studying, as well as collaborative spaces for meetings and group work. I also think that AI's ability to serve as an individual assistant will also be very important. So in terms of providing recommendations and also learning our individual preferences, our journals, our area of research, the authors that we like to cite, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things, I think, will be sped up through AI. So let's talk about school library trends. So ChatGPT says libraries will change as education becomes more personalized and technology driven to better meet the needs of teachers and students. Again, 100% agree. Again, keeping in mind that there is a digital divide. So there, depending on the school, at least 50% or more of the students that may not have the money to purchase the most modern technology. And so that's, again, an immediate mission for libraries to help close that gap. So, but the three focuses, according to AI, are one, serve as a center for digital learning. Okay. So again, as I just said, introducing devices and also introducing technology and digital literacy to the teachers and administrators as well is extremely important. Places for collaboration and project-based learning. So including safe spaces for those that may be different than others to protect from bullying, et cetera, discrimination. And then, of course, obviously, a place for innovation and collaboration and project-based learning. And then, as I mentioned, teaching digital literacy both to the students and the faculty and staff. Information literacy is more important than ever. And AI, again, will increase the potential for misinformation and in particular for youth to become lazy and relying on AI and being misinformed or not being given the full body of knowledge in which to interpret things. And so information literacy and taking ownership of individual information literacy because AI is so easy to use is very important. And case in point, so I use AI to help have a conversation with me about trends for this presentation as well as for my book chapter. However, I then overlay that with my expertise and knowledge about these particular environments that I then add and also kind of fact check what AI is telling me. So more specific trends. So again, I'm a big believer that Little Free Library Boxes will become more and more the norm as a physical space and digital space, because we're going to be adding QR codes to the boxes sooner than later as well, to provide access to digital collections as well. So more print books for the underprivileged. So my research is focused in on early children's literacy, in particular for underprivileged communities. And what we find is that there are very real barriers to books, and so libraries, school libraries in particular, is what we call low hanging fruit, because the students and the parents have to go to those schools, and oftentimes represent the only opportunity to have access to high quality, new, award-winning and culturally relevant material. And so print books is still extremely important, especially for children. Relevant books and resources for immigrants and diverse cultures. So the United States is definitely one of the most diverse countries in the world, and immigration and the diversity of thought, idea, values, definitions of what it means to be an adult and a child, et cetera, all extremely important. And so the mental and psychological well-being of our citizens are very important, especially as we continue to increase in gun violence here in the United States. And so the books and resources should continue to be relevant, innovative, and diverse to meet a diverse student population, and in particular to try to provide material to again collectively grow in a healthy way our children. So keeping in mind that, again, books and access the ideas of other people increase the breadth of knowledge and growth of children beyond the parents. And that actually is one of the foundations of these book challenges, is that some parents, not a lot, of a small minority of parents are taking the reverse, that really they know best. And they're trying to limit access to other ideas that they don't agree with for their children, which ultimately is not a good idea. And as I mentioned, again, instructional technology, digital teaching and learning for teachers. So teachers and faculty at higher education institutions oftentimes are not comfortable with technology. And so instructional technology and information literacy and digital literacy for our teachers and faculty are very important, so they can better utilize that for more efficient and effective instruction and grading. Again, digital literacy around XR, AI, information privacy and security. In the United States, upwards of 75% of our K through 12 students do not go to college. And so we need to also provide, very highly competent digital literacy for all of our K through 12 students, and cannot assume that they'll go to college. So future school libraries will be redesigned. And so again, print, similar to other types of libraries, the print material will be less in demand. Now, it certainly will still be in more demand for children, in particular elementary school children up to 10 years old. So school libraries, like, again, other libraries, will be more open and be more mixed and flexible for reading, studying, collaborating, and also innovation and creation. The battle continues in terms of the role of librarians and the role of libraries in schools. But given all the other things that we just discussed, it is going to require a well-trained, well-educated professional in order to serve as that epicenter and hub for learning and teaching and learning. Having a well-trained, certified librarian is critical to return on investment, to bringing that level of return to all of the community that they're serving. Another challenge that I think, again, will be addressed in the future is the role of school libraries and equalizing the playing field, um, closing gaps that otherwise may be very real at home in terms of access to books and also technology. And so a stronger raising the floor for all children is something that I think the United States is struggling with still, but I think more and more it is becoming understood. And so having again a well resourced school libraries with staff by professional librarians is, I think, going to be in the future. Case in point, in the United States, the relationship between illiteracy and incarceration, or putting people in prison, are very close. In other words, some states and counties use the third grade reading level as a way to predict how many cells they're going to need for that age group as they become teenagers, right? So there is a very strong relationship between the quality of life and safety and security and literacy. And so that discussion continues to be had in the United States, but I think that ultimately and in particular, I think because of the book challenges, that the pendulum is swinging the right direction to ensure that we have very strong school libraries in every school. So the top priorities for future school libraries will be digital literacy, again, equity of access, information literacy, again, equity of access, to be able to protect yourself and to ensure that you're protecting yourself from misinformation and using high quality information. Instructional technology. So again, if libraries don't do it, where are they going to get that training for free? And the answer is they will not. And so again, raising the floor on the use of technology, especially for teaching and learning, is critical. Okay, and then people and data. So I wear a Fitbit. I measure my mom's, which I need to do today actually, blood pressure. And her doctor has I guess there's a whole company that actually keeps track of the blood pressure readings and will actually call us if they see a problem. So in essence, we have access to much more real-time data, and that is critical in terms of course correcting when we need to, and providing information like the relationship between my steps each day as a professor and my own health is very important. And so accessing data, collecting data, and reporting that data really is the future, and the future of both individuals and libraries. And so the library of the future must build those systems, which we would call informatics, a system of data collection, a system of data analysis, right? And so it's critical to be agile as the demands and ways in which we can organize and access information continues to evolve, driven by the huge for-profit companies. They set the user trends that libraries must be aware of, so that we can leverage those channels of information with high quality, vetted, not for profit education. I call this GPS thinking. So the GPS that you would use for your car or any other mobile device, that basically where you enter an address, and then your GPS tells you how close or far you are from that address. But more importantly, when you make a wrong turn, your GPS will redirect you and change courses accordingly. And so when you think about GPS thinking in terms of the application of libraries and really your own information access, wouldn't you want to know if you were off course or heading in the wrong direction, right? And so the other part to GPS thinking is that you must have a goal or an address at which you're trying to go to or attain. right? And so GPS thinking is, I think, a very important analogy, a metaphor for, again, our own individual lives, but I think certainly for libraries as well, because ultimately, how far do you as an organization want to go down the wrong path before you realize it? And for libraries, the battle for funding. So in the United States, again, the sense is that libraries, for the most part, everybody supports. However, when it comes to funding, our libraries more important than education, the police, the firemen, health, et cetera, right? And so GPS thinking is essential to make sure that libraries are on the right track, understand what the needs of the community are, and also have data to back up whether things are working or not, right? And so collectively, data dashboards, gathering data to make sure that you're on the right path is very important. And then most importantly, you actually have an address, a goal, a set of goals, strategic goals in which you are moving towards, so that that data will be contextualized. And that's what we call analytics. So this dashboard here, data on things that you care about, the use of that data is called analytics. Informatics is the systems to set up that data and collect that data. Analytics is the actual analysis and use of that data to inform decisions. All right, let's talk about some challenges and threats for libraries. Again, this is in the United States. So the main challenge is being obsolete and irrelevant, and that those decisions are made by people that don't use the library, right? So if you're affluent in the United States and you're not a parent or you're not retired, then you're very oftentimes not using libraries, including your academic libraries that most decision makers are well educated, and so they use academic libraries. But at the time in which they are making decisions, they are not using libraries, and so there are trends that clearly show that print circulation and also physical visitation of our libraries are decreasing. And so decision makers can very wrongly assume that libraries are less important or relevant, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. The decrease in physical circulation and physical visitation is because of the increased access of digital resources, right? And the bottom line is that story and the data data collection around impact must continue. Otherwise, some decision makers may start to cut funding, thinking, again, wrongly, that even with the increase in digital access, that somehow that's going to cost less money, when in fact it's the reverse. Digital access continues to increase, and digital access is oftentimes very expensive, and digital access oftentimes is subscription-based, which means it's a permanent, ongoing, recurring cost. So the bottom line is these conversations must be had so that decision makers don't misunderstand and cut budgets in the wrong way. So one way is to prevent this is relationships. So making sure that you are maintaining relationships with your decision makers, the people that decide on your budget. And so it's important to pay respects to them, to understand what's important to them, and to make sure that your library is meeting those needs, and also paying attention to those priorities. So keep in mind, good relationships is not about I do what I want to do, but rather understanding what's important to my bosses, my decision makers, and making sure that our organization, your library is focusing on those priorities, plus also bringing your expertise. Strong data and strong stories are always part of the key to that. So decision making is very much a subjective and personal perspective. Of course, good decision makers collect a lot of data, but we remember stories and remember stories of impact. Another issue for the field is health and wellness. So frontline LIS professionals, and then honestly, the onset of digital meetings, we are all busier. And so health and wellness in terms of our physical wellness, our mental wellness, our emotional wellness, and I think in particular for the frontline staff, because The norms of libraries continue to rapidly change. It's a scary time. It's an anxiety-ridden time. Public librarians, in particular, are more and more providing a social worker um, role in American society, and that can be very traumatic. Drugs, indigence, gang violence, et cetera, et cetera. And so it is a very difficult time right now. And so health and wellness for all of us should be a priority so that the LS professionals have the space and the support to negotiate that accordingly. And morale and emotions are contagious. And so if there's even one team member that is struggling, it will resonate throughout the team. So health and wellness in terms of overall organizational and team performance is critical. And not only that, but of course, it's important from a humanistic, humane perspective. And so health and wellness and like anything should be prioritized, and also resources should be put behind those priorities to support LS professionals. Opportunities. So as I've mentioned before, digital access opens the doors to a lot more people. So just not having to go physically to a library, or to not think about going physically to a library is a great win for us. So an opportunity is that everybody has a cell phone, and that includes a lot of people that traditionally did not use libraries before. And again, yes, that is likely almost not a perfect correlation, but likely associated with education level. And so the bottom line is that through the use of technology, we could break the cycle for some families and organizations and people that don't traditionally use libraries. And in particular for children and youth and families, that is very important. And so as libraries in the United States are being used more, not less, because of the exponential growth in digital consumption. And again, that's a great opportunity for libraries to, again, connect and reach out to more people, use technology to bring more people into the door, and also use technology to connect them to virtual spaces and programming and information and access. And so it's a great opportunity. And I believe that the field is going to continue to grow and flourish in this digital age. So in conclusion, libraries of the future must be agile and user-centered. So the other thing that I did mention is that, yes, physical presence is still very important, and the likelihood of the people using your libraries, their physical space, is going to be a very small circle. If you draw a circle around your library, that is going to be the majority of your physical visitation. And so it's critical to leverage technology, data, community surveys, focus groups, town halls, to continuously have that dialogue with your community and to make sure that you are evolving and meeting their needs. In the United States, the age, race, gender, affluence, all those things drive different preferences and different needs. And so libraries must take advantage of GPS thinking and all the technology and ways in which we can gather and analyze data quickly, so that we can ensure that we are creating a really an environment and delivering on services that our community wants. So the broad trends are likely to be accurate. Again, the book chapter is 2035, but the user needs and preferences of the people that you serve are going to vary. And the expertise of the LAS professionals and organizations will also vary based on the demands of the people you're trying to serve. But the bottom line is, the good news is that the reasons why we exist still are the same. But how we deliver them is greatly different. but the access to free, high quality vetted information continues to be what our priority is. But now we have so many different ways in which to deliver those resources. So as I mentioned again, GPS thinking. So we have new ways in which we can do this, and we have new ways in which we customize it, and we have new ways to reach people that we've never served before. And I find that extremely, extremely exciting. Now, I want to end with this thought that everything takes hard work. So if you think about your own life, your own profession, your own career, what accomplishment have you made that didn't take a lot of hard work and sacrifice? So all that I've just laid out, in other words, is going to take a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end. And we have the tools now that can deliver that. I call that walking to the mountaintop. So again, the idea is that hiking to a mountaintop takes a lot of effort. Oftentimes, it's very painful, especially because I'm out of shape. But the bottom line is, of course, is high vertical, but when you get there, it's well worth it. And there's also a sense of satisfaction for the amount of work it took you to get there too. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. I'm hoping that I can meet some of you when you visit the campus of San Jose State. And this is a QR code to my website. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any comments or questions, and or also if you are part of the groups that are visiting San Jose State. Again, I'd love to meet you in person. And by the way, I use Microsoft Bing's image creator for all of this AI driven work. So if you haven't had a chance, I definitely encourage you to experiment with AI generated artwork for taking your ideas and creating very compelling imagery around those ideas. So I chose a sunset for my final slide because I really love the beauty of sunset, sunrises, and I think it really reflects what libraries and LS professionals and our mission is all about. And I do think this again beautifully rendered AI generated library, open space and lighting is certainly part of the future of libraries. And this here actually reflects in some ways the library that I studied at in San Francisco as an undergraduate, where although it wasn't overseeing a cityscape like this, it was overseeing the Golden Gate Bridge, and so we did get sunsets, by the Golden Gate Bridge with in a library that was all glass. And so again, the idea of creating these physical spaces that aesthetically are pleasing and beautiful is also part of the future of libraries. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr. Anthony Chow. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions, and have a good day.